life? Yeah, I think I am, although, yeah. You can never exactly see when it is live, but I think I am live now, yes. It is Monday, and it's the 24th of January 2022, and I am reading out of a book I wrote entitled Lydia, and it is the follow-on, book 2, from the first book I wrote in 2006 until 2017, entitled Bliss After Life. And sorry, just coming up. And we are now already, Lydia, the re-incarnation, has been born in March. She's a few months old now, and we are finding ourselves after the birthday party, which was back in May. We're finding ourselves in summer now of 2012. Summer had arrived and life had picked up a pace. Lydia was 6 months old and had started to move around on the floor. Anna and Peter had changed from the lovely but small annex to the first floor of the house. Melanie had started to look pregnant. They were looking at making their 2 flats functionable for all 3 of them. Ben, Faye and Lydia had firmly settled in, and Lydia spent much time in the garden. They had grown a lot of vegetables, and they had some sunny days. Someone always seemed to be in the garden. Pete and David had built a summer house. They had enjoyed designing it, and it was up and ready for Susan to make it a little haven. She had just finished making it lovely, a good size with large sliding doors leading into the back of the garden, which had been redesigned. She had poured herself and David a glass of wine, and they sat down for the first time in the sunny space. David turned to Susan. "Hey, Susie Q, did you ever wear a leather jumpsuit?" He started laughing before he finished, and so did Susan. "Yes, I did. After you left, I had a whole phase of following her. She was, or even is, such an icon. Did you know that Steve got a motorbike that year? In fact, sometimes I wonder if we just followed a sort of dream, because we were still occasionally in the garage, and although I couldn't play the bass, I imitated her voice." She was laughing now. She had not thought of that for such a long time. She snuggled back into David's arms. "This is so lovely. I don't know why we haven't done this years ago in this garden. Such a good space for relaxing. Or even children playing when it's raining." She smiled at him. Yesterday he got news that he would also become a granddad again. His daughter Maisie had met the love of her life. Less than 6 months ago, she had moved to Bath through a photography job and met Alexander, Irish and working as a cameraman. He had not even met him yet, and Maisie was surprised to have fallen pregnant, but it seemed they loved the idea and were planning to get married. "I hope Maisie and Alexander will come here soon. She keeps promising, but I feel this time she will." David took a long gulp from his glass. Sometimes things were just moving too fast or too slow. He looked at Susan, who was smiling. "See, I knew we need room here. We shall ask Melanie and Tony over at the same time. All these new babies. We do need the space." "I shall message Maisie. It's time we all get together. How about the second weekend in July? I will ask if they can make it for a long weekend, and then we see who else is around. That gives us 2 weeks." "You do that, and I shall check with Holly, etc. It's been a while that we had all of us here. In fact, what does mean nowadays, all of us? We're getting bigger and bigger. Have you looked at Anna lately? I'm sure she put on weight. She looks sort of radiant." She turned to David, who had raised an eyebrow. "Are you saying what I think you are?" "Have you said anything?" "No, in fact, I was only thinking it very recently, and I might be completely wrong. Nothing worse than asking if somebody is pregnant if they're not, like an insult to being a little heavier looking. I should just bite my tongue and watch." She was smiling, and so was David. He was thinking that the last few months had been almost surreal in the way things clicked together. There was plenty of space here for his daughter and partner to stay as long as they liked. Did you hear Anna saying that her parents are keen to come over again? We have the summer solstice coming up. We shall definitely go away as promised. Anyhow, she mentioned July. As if on cue, Anna and Pete came along the path. Both had sweet pea bunches in their hands. They stopped to look at the new summer house. David and Susan looked so chilled on the settee, and the doors were wide open. We were just talking about you. Come in and sit with us. David's daughter is expecting a baby. Susan was looking at Anna, who looked at her, and she was sure she saw her blushing. We are thinking of asking them to come and stay. I have not even met Maisie's new man. I mentioned to David that my parents just told me they would love to come and visit in July. My mum is very keen to spend a few days at Bliss Place by the sea. She was laughing as her mum had been quite detailed already in her plans, and she had not even discussed it with Holly or Susan. For the last 3 weeks, Anna and Pete had known that she was expecting, but they wanted to be sure all was well. Anna turned to Pete, and when he took her hand, she looked at Susan, who had an expectant look on her face. Yes, I am pregnant, that is. I am pregnant, that is. Everybody was laughing, and Susan took Anna in her arms. I don't even know what to say, apart from congratulations. How fabulous is that? It is, right? Peter put his hand around her shoulders. I tell you, it's fantastic. I don't know how I managed not to blurt it out, although it was also quite nice to have this little secret. He put his arm around all of them. I told my mum, and she said she had already known. Anyhow, the way you looked at me, Susan, I felt silly to hold it in any longer. All seems well. I feel so happy, and I cannot wait to tell Melanie and Faye. Again, as if on cue, Faye came out of the house with Lydia on her arm, and they were waving to her. She strutted up the path, smiling. All looked so happy, and the sun had come out in full force. What a perfect outside-inside place. I love it. Lydia had spotted them and was gurgling. May I? Anna stretched her arms to take Lydia, who was looking straight at her. She settled her comfortably on her arms and smiled at Faye. I'm having a baby too. She looked at Lydia. Her eyes had welled up. She felt like crying for happiness. Faye put her arms around her and the baby, and Peter was still holding them all. You couldn't make it up. Everybody burst out laughing. It was all a little surreal. What is your due date? April 2013, but that is our own estimation and the test. And the test I made myself. I'm going to the doctor next week for the exact due date. A spring baby. She was hugging Faye, and they looked at each other, smiling. It was hard not to say anything. I think Lydia knew. She was rocking Lydia, who had fallen asleep. All gathered inside the cozy new space. Susan got up to open the little fridge. They saw 4 bottles chilling. Just as well I prepared the place. I even have crisps and candles. This all calls for a toast. And thank you, Peter and David. An amazing operation on the outside-inside space. They all chinked glasses. Chapter 47. Joseph. Joseph was meeting Bliss in a special place in the woods. Natalie was still present, but all decisions had been made, and he was past the first month of becoming a person again. Natalie, Joseph, so wonderful you have come out of the closet. Bliss was chuckling. She was delighted about the new development. A male this time, dear Natalie. Your love of nature and animals will be your driving force this time. Blessed to be with my old family. I shall be there for you, little Joseph, your guiding light, and you will always be able to see me. It was time for physical developments, and Bliss sent him on his way. Natalie, the past. Joseph, starting afresh. Entering a world that was changing more at this time than it had at any other time in its known history. The frequency of Gaia had increased, and souls of service to these higher frequencies were needed. Joseph will start his journey when the first year of the new epoch is embarking. 2013 will be a significant year. The time of the confluence had started. Chapter 48. Evelyn, Holly and Melanie get the list. Holly had been sitting with Evelyn all morning talking. They had been friends over 40 years, and their lives had been interwoven ever since Evelyn became friends with Susan at school, and as soon as Holly met her, they all became firm friends. Evelyn had been a regular visitor to Bliss, and they'd had their own relationship over all these years. Holly was talking about the revelations of Susan's adoption and Melanie's help with information. There suddenly seemed so much to catch up on. She was astonished to learn that Evelyn was aware of much that had been going on, even during Bliss' lifetime. The two of them had been talking, and Evelyn seemed to know more than anyone. It had never been appropriate to talk about it, she said, when asked why she had not mentioned the details of the abandoned baby, which was Susan. But both knew that everything happens at the right time, and finding out through Melanie had given enough distance to the events. Now it felt more anecdotal than dramatic. Evelyn, you really surprised me. We spent so much time together, and you never mentioned that you knew about Mum and Dad's feeling when they found Susan. You seem not in the least surprised about the things Melanie said. Holly, I know it sounds bizarre, but during conversations with your mum, we had all sorts of scenarios regarding Susan's birth, and the story of a young mum desperately watching for a good spot to leave her did come up. In fact, Bliss and I sort of settled on that. I did love going to hers. I used to do her feet, and I guess I generally looked after her health. I always recommended stuff to her, and she was always willing to listen unless I was getting all too healthy for anybody's good. She did like her wine and her occasional joint, things she was not prepared to give up. I did love to visit both of them when your dad was still alive. He and I got on well. I'm an avid reader, as you know, and your dad could always engage with anyone who was into books. I cannot tell you how much help they both were when I discovered that I could not have children. Eve, I didn't know. I remember we talked about kids when we were in our 20s. I always thought you did not want any. You were so great with helping out. Ben and Tony had the best babysitter in you. You never really mentioned anything, and I did not want to delve. God, it seems so long ago now. How is your love life? Are you still with Mark? Yes, sort of. I like him, and we see each other fairly regularly. Your mum was wonderful, Holly. I'd had much complications in my teens, and had a hysterectomy very early. I never really talked about it. It was your mother who was such a great counselor to me in those days. We talked about purpose and destiny, and although I do not remember it all, she did make me feel much better, and ultimately I embraced being childless in this particular life. Evelyn laughed and embraced Holly. She knew that both Holly and Chris and Susan had always wanted children, and she never felt she could talk to them about her embracing a life without them. Bliss had given her a very wide perspective when it was important. She had not married and hence had spent her life helping all over the world. I'm so glad you're in our life, Evelyn. What do you think about the latest development with Melanie pregnant and now Anna? I think I'm in a Mills and Boons novel, Sue. They both laughed and continued to talk. The last few months had felt extraordinary, and when the doorbell went, 3 hours had passed. Who is that? Holly got up to open and found Melanie standing outside. Hey, Melanie. Great to see you. What a surprise. I'm here with Evelyn. We are just chatting about old times. I was amazed to hear that she knew much more about Susan than anyone until you came along. The two women embraced. Melanie was quite a bit taller than Holly and quite large. Her belly was showing quite well now. They walked into the kitchen where Evelyn was sitting drinking her coffee. She looked up and looked at Melanie's eyes and had the strangest feeling of utterly knowing her. I know Evelyn is here. In fact, I had such a compelling urge to come that I threw caution to the wind and found myself in front of your door before I knew what I was doing. Melanie was quite used to urges, but she had not been able to fathom why she had to be at Holly's today. She had actually been quite busy all morning and had yet not found out why she ended up here. I'm sorry to surprise you like this. I do not even know why I was compelled to come. I just know that Mio wanted me to be here. She shrugged her shoulders and sat down. Do you fancy a coffee or tea? Tea, please. Any herbal if you have, Holly. Sorry to be difficult. Melanie had become super sensitive to any caffeine and had become careful in her intake of food and drink. Her system was constantly complaining about anything untowards, like a kinesiological Geiger counter, she thought, smiling to herself. I think it's Mio who needs to talk. Melanie leaned back and closed her eyes. Both women sat down and watched with bated breath. This was becoming a far more exciting morning than they had anticipated. Well, here goes. She leaned back and let Mio speak. You are here because, Holly, your story. You felt unease. Remember when you were angry because the happy scenario about the new world felt threatened? Holly did remember, and when she heard Mio, she felt the same dread again. She had not been able to write properly since this had happened because she did not know how to continue her wonderful vision of a new earth with all the children educating the population. She had tried to sit down but got up every time. It had started to feel like hard work, and so she had concentrated on other things. She knew what Mio meant immediately. Your feelings are quite accurate. We have not even conveyed to Melanie what it is really going on here on this lovely earth. Holly and Evelyn were looking at each other. Melanie was still and composed, looking at each woman dispassionately. There are dark forces on this planet. They rule everything. You can never win. You can try. We help you sometimes. And Holly, you're having a good life. You think something is wrong with your world as it is? I know you started writing a story of a better world. Why do you think you suddenly could not go on? Holly had felt Mio's eyes straight at her. She felt a deep sense of responsibility suddenly. She did not even know where this feeling came from. I have felt that things have changed in my world. Writing had started to become really fun again, and then I felt this darkness and did not know how to go on. Yes, things are not right. My sister runs a refuge. Well, she has withdrawn from this recently, but yes, I have often felt that things are just wrong. Susan used to talk about the salami effect. Italian salami, you slice so thinly that you think you have so much of it. After a while you realize it does not matter how thin you slice it, you have come to the end of it. She felt like that with a refuge a lot in the recent years. The cuts for services to the needy were extreme, and she had often been so annoyed how she had to beg for a little bit of money. Much was fundraising in the early years, and Susan had always counted herself lucky to have inherited the refuge. She could have never afforded to pay a mortgage or rent on the property. She hated doing fundraisers, spent ages on accounts, and no wonder she'd got tired, because it had become so hard to run the house with the paltry funding they received. Council tax arguments and strife was much talk about in the last few years. It's all rigged, dear ones. Mio looked at both deeply and unmovingly. Your world is run by a very small elite of people, a small group of people only interested in making money and gaining power. There's much more to it, but all I want to say for now is this group has been in existence for a long time, part of God's plan. I do not know the plan of God, but I know that your life is experiential. You have all signed up for this time. Melanie knows. We have talked ever since she was aware, but most of you here on earth have forgotten how to connect with your own higher self, your own Mio. A wry smile appeared on Melanie's face. Holly and Evelyn felt goosebumps rising up their arms and neck. They looked at each other with wide eyes. You have entered the shift in earnest now. If you check yourself on your internet, you check things like WikiLeaks, check things like... Mio continued to give them things to listen to and check on the internet. They both had active social media accounts, although Holly hardly ever used it, but they were both often diverted to YouTube for things to watch. Evelyn had quite a presence on social media because she used Twitter and Facebook, and lately she had noticed some posts of truthers, but she often thought them quite conspiracy theoretical and scary stuff about the way society was run. It had not really gelled with her, and she had discarded most. Her life was smooth, and she worked hard to keep it that way. She looked at Holly because something made her uneasy. So, this is the first part of the chapter 48. This is the first part of chapter 48, and I want to continue this in peace at the next reading, because I just got a message. Have a good Monday.